Hey everyone, I'm back with these podcast episodes. I know it's been a few crazy months for all of us. We've been going through a lot. And even for myself personally, it did take a lot for me to get back here just to be able to put this content back out and just want to record it and just want to share it again. You know, you definitely have to be in a certain place emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, everything. So I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be able to share, some of my ideas for today and kind of put that out there. So for today's episode, it's going to be about self-care. And there's so much to this. I'm just going to cover like a little bit of it, the best that I can, but there truly is a lot to this. And I feel like by focusing on yourself and getting yourself better, it prepares you for everything that life has to offer. Doesn't matter if there's sadness, if there's like pain that you're going through or trauma that you're going through, or even if you're in your happiest place right now, you still have to be strong emotionally and mentally. And like beyond all different types of love, one could love nature, one could love other people, energy, whatever. Beyond all of that, there's one that in my opinion is like the most pivotal to your personal growth, which ends up leading to the impact that you have on this planet, the time that you're here. That's like the self-care, self-love, and to get there, it goes beyond words, beyond all these things that we can come up with. It's action. What are you doing to take care of yourself? And that's what today's episode is going to be about. So I'm going to start off by quickly talking about, what does self-care even entail? What does that look like? What does that mean? And for me, it entails the relationship you have with yourself. When times are silent and when you don't say anything, like physically out loud, you are still having this conversation within yourself. What does that conversation look like? How do you view this? How do you view yourself? Are you kind to yourself? Are you unjudgmental with certain things that you go through and maybe you keep doing the same things again? Do you judge yourself based on that? Are you compassionate with yourself? This is a big one. Are you honest with yourself? Are you mindful that what you're actually doing on a daily basis? Because what you do on a daily basis is what determines what your weeks are going to look like, what your months are going to look like, and years. And we know it, pretty well. Like these years fly. 2020 is pretty much almost done. There's just a few months left. And of course, each of these are broken into subsections, which we can go deeper and deeper. But I want to just make a really quick analogy in terms of, self-care and just the self in general. In my views, your mind is like a cave. And you've spent your whole life going down it, sometimes with certain visions, and you've been direct. Most times you've been probably aimless, that happens a lot. And you keep getting pushed around by external forces. But what I want you guys to do this time is I want you to stop for a moment. Look at where you are, how far you've came, where do you see yourself headed? Do you love or hate what you see? I want you to move into every crevice of your mind, regardless whether it's beautiful or ugly. Just move through them. What do you see? And self-care, it goes beyond taking bubble baths and lighting some candles, which is great. It's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I do that myself. Like, it's beautiful. But the reason I say it goes beyond it is simply because of the fact that, it doesn't go deep enough. I want you guys to dive deep. Don't be afraid of the ugly. Don't be afraid of, the things that you think are painful. Because out of the ugliest things can come the most beautiful things. Turn what you view as ugly, where you have to hide it, drown it, bury it, turn that into roses through the concrete, Let that grow. Be proud of what you've gone through, both good and bad. Yeah, I remember watching this interview, and it was with the main character of Prison Break. I don't know if you guys remember that show, Wentworth Miller. And what he was saying just really, really touched on me, because he said that the conversations that you have with yourself, and not everybody's like this, right? This is just my perspective that I feel like you guys can take something away from it. But those conversations that you have with yourself, where You know, the self-doubt, the negative talks, the negative energy, the like disrespect that you give yourself, you would never ever speak like that to anybody else, because if you did, those people wouldn't be in your life. But you talk to yourself like that. And that's what I meant by the mindfulness. You have to self-reflect, like, are you truly talking to yourself this way? And if you are, why? And how can you change that? How can you be more compassionate with yourself? The reality is that, like, a lot of people, and this is one topic specifically, a lot of people don't know what love looks like. They don't know what it looks like for someone to love them unconditionally. Maybe their parents didn't love them. Maybe they didn't have siblings. Maybe they didn't have friends who were ever nice to them. But then there's also, you know, that self-love. Do you love yourself? That's a big question. Do you think you have love for oneself? Someone might ask, what is the purpose of self-love? And in my view, the whole purpose of self-love, that journey that you take to love yourself, it opens up doors you've never imagined. I can say this from my personal experience, like, so many things that I could have never ever imagined. For example, like this morning, just before I'm recording this podcast, I went to this like nearby park and I sat down underneath this tree that just seemed interesting to me, and I meditated. And I've kind of put that in my habit where I've started meditating in the mornings. I did fall off a little bit, but that's life. But what was so interesting to me is that, like, by pursuing this journey of loving yourself, how crazy is it that I'm sitting under a tree on a Thursday morning meditating as the wind just blows across my face and I hear birds and insects just all around me just existing and living. I would have never ever in a million years thought I would get outside my house in the morning, drive to a park, walk, find a tree. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would have never imagined that certain things like this could happen. That's true self-love in my opinion. It's like every day I'm getting pushed towards being what I'm meant to be. Another thing, like, I've also been consumed by the desert. That's kind of been like my thing for the last few months. And it's like, I can't get enough of it. Pictures, I'll watch hiking videos of these guys camping out in the desert and just hiking and things like that. And I realized, like, it was because I felt like a desert. A place that, you know, most people see as deserted and dry and think there's no life here, but yet there's animals, creatures, plants, and so much diversity. You know, like the cactus, it's so strong, it's so resistant to its surroundings. I found similarities between the cactus and myself. And if you really think about it, humans, we're not this like special creature. We're just a reflection of nature. And seeking self-love gives you direction. It gives you purpose. I think that's like the pinnacle of this episode, purpose. Because I can attest to this, and I'm pretty sure so many other people can as well. We're all so lost. You know, we're all just trying to figure out, what the hell do we want from this life? Where do we stand in this life? What's gonna happen in the future? Like, 2020 itself has been like just this huge crazy mess, and it's like, where do we stand in life? But by loving oneself and like removing yourself from these anxiety-ridden thoughts, it gives you abundance. The more you love yourself, the more you can give it to others. That's the purpose of loving oneself, in my opinion. And, you know, it's simple. Like, let your cup overflow. You know, that excess is what we can give to the world. If you don't have water just for yourself, how do you expect to love someone else? You know, that like cliche saying, like, you can't love others if you don't love yourself, right? Now, the one big question that remains for me is what we can do. What does self-care look like? Physically, you know, we can talk about what it feels like and where we can think it takes us, but what does it actually look like? For me personally, self-love and self-care, it's about spending time alone. I didn't know this, but I actually truly love and enjoy being alone. I used to consider myself like, I can't remember the phrase, but like it's a combination of being an extrovert and an introvert. But the more and more I find out, I actually like, I'm my most focused when I'm alone. And you know, it might not be plausible or enjoyable for a lot of people, and that's fine. But I feel like it is slightly necessary, you know, because being around people sometimes, usually can be a distraction for a lot of people. It takes them away from those issues they have with themselves. They can't be alone because they're afraid of what it feels like to be alone. They're afraid of their own thoughts. But, you know, I think that eventually, at some point, you need to push yourself into the deep end. And, you know, to be lost in order to be found. And that can be eye-opening. Another thing is, you know, certain things like journaling and meditating, drinking water, limiting social media. And, you know, for me personally, like, Twitter's my thing. If I go on there, I'll try to like spread as much positivity and, you know, present different perspectives and just dope shit in general. Another thing I found out throughout this whole quarantine and pandemic is that, like, I love individual exercises like bike rides. And I didn't know this at all, but like that's my thing now. You know, I have a bike rack on my car, which I literally take it everywhere. And it's like I'll just go downtown and I'll set a destination, start from somewhere and go for 30 kilometers, pack some snacks and just go. And in that time, like literally every pedal is a chance for you to get to know yourself better. You go through injuries, you go through moments where you feel like you can't go on, and you just grow. That's what I mean about spending time alone, right? And like I've been breaking personal records with my biking as well. Like I'm not sure if you guys are into astrology, which is fine, but I'm kind of like letting my Aries Mars just roam free, just go be the best that you can be. It's kind of like what I'm telling it, and my Virgo energy. And another thing, I feel like self-love really just comes down to like it's simple. It comes down to simplicity and creating. I think everyone's a creator, just in their own right, their own way. And you're an artist deep down. I already know without knowing that, you know, you can create the best art. And I mean art very generally speaking. I don't mean specifically painting, but you can create the best art ever. You know, you can share that with people. People get inspired. I think like self-love and self-care, I think everyone should kind of take a piece and see what they can do, what it looks like for them. I hope that like some of the stuff that I did say did resonate with some people, and I feel like, or I hope that you can take something away from it. If you have, please let me know, of course. I would love to hear kind of some of the stuff that you guys are doing and what stuff makes you guys happy, because we're all different, right? One thing I do want to leave you guys, this is kind of like a gem that I just discovered recently, and you know, you guys can implement that in your lives as well. In the process of just, you know, figuring myself out, I stumbled upon this book called Atomic Habits. You guys can check that out. It's honestly like one of the biggest eye-opening books I've ever read. I haven't even finished it yet. One thing I did take from it, which I've been implementing, is something that he calls a habit spreadsheet. It's to just jot down everything you do in a day for a week or a month or a day, whatever you want to do. And then every day at night or the next morning, go back and attribute a positive, negative, or neutral value to each thing you did. That way you can add or remove or, you know, customize and change certain habits that like are unconscious, certain habits you don't realize you're doing. And that way you can become more efficient and you can succeed in the things that you want to do. I found like I used to be really overwhelmed by like all my thoughts and everything that I wanted to get done, to a point where like I didn't even know where to begin. And I'd say, okay, fuck it, like it's too much, you know, I don't know what to start, where to start. But with this, I found like you can kind of pinpoint what you want to do, when you want to do it, and where. And it kind of like makes it real at that point. It doesn't just become something, a figment of your imagination. I remember even writing it in my agenda and I couldn't get it done just because like I didn't really be specific enough on when am I actually going to do this? When am I going to stretch, for example? So yeah, I think I hope that you guys can kind of take something away from this habit spreadsheet too. All I literally did was in my notes, I just created like a table two sides. One side just wrote down everything that I did in a day. The right side at the end, I just attributed, positive, negative, neutral. And I'm noticing trends. I'm noticing trends that like I didn't realize. I do certain things right before I do things I don't like. And that way I can kind of eliminate those. So I hope you guys can take something away. I hope this episode was eye-opening for you guys. I hope it was inspiring. And I'm gonna go ahead and start my day today, and I hope that whenever you guys are listening to this, I hope you guys have a great day as well. Thank you for listening, and please, share it if you can, and like and subscribe and so on. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day.